If HBsAg is positive, IgM positive means acute, IgG means chronic. If HBs antibody positive means recovered, and if it's negative means vaccinated.
Okay, let's dive into this explainer and tackle something that honestly looks like an incredibly intimidating bowl of alphabet soup. We are talking about hepatitis B serology. If you've ever looked at these test results and seen the crazy jumble of HBs, HBc, AG, and AB, you know exactly what I mean. It feels completely overwhelming, right? But today, we are going to take this boring, chaotic list and turn it into a thrilling medical detective puzzle. Let's decode the real story hidden behind all those letters.
So, how exactly do we crack this code? Well, if you consider yourself a focused learner, you already know that rote memorization is a trap. It's totally inefficient, and let's be real, you'll probably forget it all by tomorrow anyway. The real secret to decoding these tests is understanding that they aren't just isolated, random facts. They actually form a surprisingly simple, highly logical decision tree. We just need to know how to follow the branches. I want you to think of yourself as a detective arriving at a scene. Every single test result is a crucial piece of evidence, pointing you directly toward the final conclusion.
Now, in any good investigation, you need a solid starting place. And in hepatitis B serology, the very first test result you look at acts like a massive fork in the road. It immediately splits our entire medical investigation into two completely different worlds. You are either dealing with an active situation or a past situation. Honestly, understanding this first fork is like 90% of the battle. If you get this part right, the rest of the puzzle pieces literally fall into place on their own.
Let's walk down that first path we might take at the fork in the road. Our first major clue is the HBs marker. Specifically, we're checking to see if HBsAg is positive. Now, if HBsAg is positive, this means the patient has an active disease. You can basically think of this as the alarm bells ringing. The AG part is our big red signal that there is an active fire burning right now. If you see this pop up on a chart, your investigation immediately zeroes in on managing a current active medical event.
But what if we arrive at that fork in the road and see something completely different? Instead of AGB, we might see HBs antibody positive. The second you see antibody positive instead of AG positive, boom, it completely flips the script. This means the patient has a past infection. The active fire is out. The threat, it's already been neutralized. This single clue immediately pivots the entire focus of our investigation away from an ongoing emergency and straight into uncovering the history of what happened in the past.
All right, let's trace our steps back down that first pathway for a second, the active disease path. So we've identified HBsAg as positive. We know the disease is active because of that AG marker. But a really good detective doesn't just pack up and stop at the first clue, right? An active disease is just way too broad of a category. We need to figure out exactly what kind of active disease we are looking at. To do that, we have to hunt for our next piece of evidence, the HBc antibody.
And here is where it gets really interesting. This secondary clue, the HBc antibody, perfectly splits our active path into two highly specific diagnoses. If the test shows that the HBc antibody IgM is positive, well, that means we're looking at an acute infection. It's a new, recent, sudden emergency. On the flip side, if the HBc antibody IgG is positive, that signals a chronic infection. It's a long-standing, ongoing issue. So just by looking at whether we have IgM or IgG, our active disease is brilliantly categorized into either a brand new acute fight or a long-term chronic battle.
Okay, switching gears completely, let's reset and jump back to our original fork in the road. Imagine we didn't go down the active path at all. Instead, our very first clue was HBs antibody positive. Like we established earlier, this means we are firmly on the past infection pathway. We know for sure the patient is safe from active disease. But you know what? The medical mystery isn't totally solved quite yet. We still need to figure out exactly how the patient gained this immunity. And just like on the active path, our next clue is, you guessed it, the HBc antibody.
This is honestly where the story gets so fascinating. We're on the past infection path, looking at our secondary clue. If the HBc antibody IgG is positive, it means the patient recovered naturally. They actually encountered the real virus out in the wild. Their body fought it off tooth and nail, and they successfully recovered, gaining natural immunity in the process. But look at the alternative. If that HBc antibody is negative, it means they were vaccinated. They have the immunity, they have all the past protection, but they never actually had to fight off the full-blown virus. Their immunity came straight from modern medicine, not a natural recovery.
And when you put it all together, it beautifully illustrates the entire deduction system summarized into this simple, highly logical cheat sheet. We have 4 distinct medical realities: acute infection, chronic infection, recovered, and vaccinated.
And absolutely every single one of them is reached by simply following two easy steps. First, you check the HBs status to see if it's active or passed. Second, you check the HBc antibody status to get the specific detail. This is total proof that you don't need to memorize complex medical jargon if you just understand the logical pathways behind it. It literally transforms a chaotic jumble of letters into a perfectly structured map.
Well, we've officially cracked the case. But seriously, isn't it absolutely wild how a simple positive or negative sign on a lab sheet can tell an entire complex story about a person's life and medical history? We've taken a system that looks incredibly technical on the surface and revealed the elegant, simple logic underneath it all. You now have the deductive tools to read these markers not as random, scary letters, but as actual chapters in a patient's story, whether they're fighting a new acute battle, dealing with a chronic condition, recovering naturally, or protected by a vaccine. I really hope this explainer has empowered you with a totally new way of thinking about medical data and leaves you hungry to do.
If HBsAg is positive, active disease is present. Next, look for the core antibody. IgM positive means positive. That means it is a chronic infection. A positive hepatitis B surface antibody means past infection or exposure. Next, look at the core antibody. If IgG is positive, you're recovered. If it's negative, you're vaccinated.